Welcome back to another action-packed episode of the Deadly Podcast Kung Fu. Myself, Justin Raymer, as I attempt to traverse the continuity of Marvel's most prolific martial artist, in Iron Fist and Shang Chi. If you want to keep up with the podcast, you can do so over on social media accounts, Twitter, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. If you want to keep up with myself, Justin Raymer, you can do so over on Twitter, X, and Instagram, and Blue Sky. I've been there for a while. Don't post a whole lot. Usually just share the podcast there, but hey, every now and then I post some stuff, especially with all this Godzilla stuff versus Marvel going on. I know they're doing the Avengers as the new Avengers, and there's some Luke Cage in there. And I thought, man, because it's Deadly Pod adjacent, because it's Luke Cage, maybe there's an Iron Fist. And I really want to do a Godzilla podcast, because there's so much good Godzilla stuff coming out. We just recently had Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong, which we're getting a part 2 this year. We've had the Godzilla versus Power Rangers. We've got the Godzilla versus Marvel stuff going on right now. Please, Toho, let Dark Horse do an omnibus of all their Godzilla series. There's the, where they redid the 1985 movie. It's like a 4-part series. You've got that 13-part series that they did. You've got the Versus Hero Zero, the Super Special 92, which is like my favorite Godzilla comic. There's Barkley versus Godzilla. I don't know if they could get the rights to Charles Barkley, but Chuck seems like a really cool guy. He's the best guy on inside the NBA. I love him during the NCAA tournament. So maybe Dark Horse will get that omnibus just like Marvel got. I think it's only fair. I mean, I own all this in singles. Man, I want it to go right beside my Marvel omnibus, which I own all the singles too. I just like collecting omnibuses for the stuff that I love. You know, it makes a lot of sense, because one day I always talk about, like, maybe I'll just sell my comic book collection, you know, and I can keep all the omnibuses and stuff. Anyways, that's not what we're here to talk about today. We're going to talk about some Shang Chi. They just announced the production for Doomsday was starting, and we see all the director's chairs with all the actors. We knew that Simu Liu was part of the movie, thank God. It's been 5 years since we got the very first Shang-Chi movie. I should say the only Shang-Chi movie. It's been sad. I've kind of talked online. I think that was on my personal accounts. Or maybe it was with Deadly Pod. Maybe on Blue Sky or Threads. I think maybe Threads. Like, these after credit things and these big events. And I know we had the actor strike here after the Infinity Saga, but they're really slowing down everything else that they're building up. And it's kind of like a love-hate thing. Man, do I want to see Secret Wars based on, like, Hickman's story? Yes. But there's so much stuff that they keep getting pushed back. Like I said, I know it's the actor strike and everything that also hurt this and COVID. But that sequel should have already been here. Should have not even been a problem. That movie was very popular. People love it. Why didn't we get a sequel? Now we know that the director of the next Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 4, which we don't have a title for, is Destin Daniel Cretton, so we know that he directed Shang-Chi. A lot of us are hoping for Way of the Spider, maybe we'll get Shang-Chi, but we're also hearing like all these movies between Doomsday and Secret War are going to be like Battle World movies. So we also know that Shang-Chi has a Battle World story during Hickman's Secret Wars, which I will be covering at that time here on the podcast. We need more Shang-Chi in the MCU. I think he's a character everybody really enjoyed, and he's just kind of forgotten about for the most part, and that's kind of awful. I mean, that's kind of the one thing I hate about all the young actors we bring into the MCU that are getting all these roles, like we just brought in, I've been talking about it, Angela Del Toro, and that girl's like 14, maybe 15 years old, and by the time she shows back up, if she's not in Daredevil Season 2, she's going to be like 3 or 4 years older, because clearly she doesn't seem like she would be involved with all the Secret Wars stuff. And they kind of get left behind, and next thing you know, we have the Ant-Man problem with stature, and she's older. But anyways, talking Secret Wars and whatnot, we know we got Daredevil Season 2 coming on. We've seen the black suit with red D's on it. Everybody's excited. And it got me thinking, man, how would you tie Daredevil to Secret Wars? It's not that he has to be. It's just that, you know, he's this character that everybody loves, that I'm pretty sure that everybody wants to see. Now, since we're talking Secret Wars, I don't know if anybody ever read the Journal series. It was just like short stories, but there is a Daredevil there that is pretty awesome named Faredevil, and he's a chef. And it's a good story. I'm going to leave it like that. Give me that cameo. I'll take it. Read that story, though. It's really excellent. He lives in a bar Sinister, which is the occupied, ran by Sinister himself. Funny story. You should read that. It's really good. Or, man, maybe like the end of season 2 of Daredevil. Since we know that Robert Downey Jr. playing Doctor Doom, we get a little end of Superior Iron Man, but instead of Iron Man, it's Tony as Doom, and he gives Matt his sight. We get Battleworld. You could do a Shadowland and have an evil Matt, like a whole season of Shadowland, which could bring in the Defenders into battle him. I think that'd be really cool, because I'm also wondering, like, if we're doing movies that are going to be Battleworld, and this is a big if, we're not really, I don't think any of this is confirmed, but there need to be shows, too, to do Battleworld, because otherwise it's going to be really short. We're not really going to get a dive into that. Shadowland would be a really cool thing to do for a Battleworld, Elseworlds type story during all this Secret War stuff. Just my food for thought. I'm just saying, I think it'd be cool. I mean, I would like Shadowland regardless. A lot of us seem to think that's what's going on in the world of Daredevil and Iron Fist and everything, but just my thoughts there for the big news this week. What I think would really be cool is if all the actors that was not listed for Doomsday were in Secret Wars, and then they did another movie. That was literally Avengers versus X-Men. Something like that. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about what we're here for today, which is Shang Chi himself. We're going to dive into the latest Avengers Assemble book, which would be Volume 3. Today we're going to cover Issue 1. Now, before you dive into this, if you want to do some back issue reading, you do need to read Blood Hunt. It's where Doctor Doom becomes Sorcerer Supreme. We're currently in One World Under Doom. All Hail Doom. Now, Avengers Assembled Volume 1, Number 1 was released on September 11th, 2024, along with 16 other titles from Marvel Comics. They are Amazing Spider-Man Volume 1, Number 57, Blood Hunters Volume 2, Number 2, Captain America Volume 11, Number 13, Fantastic Four Volume 7, Number 25, Spider-Gwen the Ghost Spider Volume 1, Number 5, Spider-Man Reign 2, Volume 1, Number 3, Star Wars Volume 3, Number 50, Star Wars Inquisitors Volume 1, Number 3, Ultimate Black Panther Volume 1, Number 8, Vengeance of the Moon Knight Volume 2, Number 9, Venom Volume 5, Number 37, Venom War Carnage Volume 1, Number 2, Venom War Wolverine Volume 1, Number 1, Venom Separation Anxiety Volume 2, Number 5, Venomverse Reborn Volume 1, Number 4. As you can tell, a lot of Venom going on here. That's why I've been talking about all new Venom with Luke Cage in the last couple of episodes with Timeless Power Man. Wrapping up that list is Wolverine Volume 8, Number 1. No, not tied to Venom War. The title of this story is, there isn't one. There's not a trade paperback at this time with a title mentioned. There's not a title for any issue in this miniseries, which is, it's kind of typical of Marvel not to sometimes title stuff when they don't have a story for a miniseries, so I'm not surprised by this. But your creative team is Steve Orlando as your writer, Corey Smith as penciler, Oren Jr. and Elizabetta D'Amco on your inks, Sonia Bach as your colorist, Corey Patet as your letterer, and Alana Smith as your editor. The cover is done by Lionel Francis Yu and Romulo Fajardo Jr. It features most of the team on this book. There are some surprise characters, which we'll get to at the end of this episode, but your other members that I'm not covering in the story are Hawkeye, She-Hulk, Hercules, and Wonder Man. Now, there are 5 other variants along with the main cover, and one of them is a disco variant by Nadram Charon. They got this disco thing when they were bringing out Dazzler last year. Some of the covers are comical, not like in a bad way, but just they're funny, kind of like the Hulk one that I can think of. But here's Shang-Chi. He's doing what I call a flying dragon kick. I used to run around and flying dragon kick people in my younger days. And he's got the 10 rings on, a button-down shirt that's like wide up from the chest open. And he's got roller skates on with a kick. It's an interesting cover. Not so much master of kung fu, but master of disco skating. Anywho, let's just move on to the story. After the endless night and rise of Victor Von Doom, Steve Rogers decided there needed to be an Avengers emergency squad on standby. Walking outside the mansion with Jarvis, he sees his first three recruits, Shang Chi, Janet Van Dyne, and Monica Rambeau. With Sin, daughter of the infamous Red Skull, in control of a powerful relic called the Death Mask of Arita, there is no time for pleasantries. Using the 10 rings, Commander Han teleports the four to her location. Arriving in Germany, the Avengers find that the locals have gone blind with hate and are attacking one another. Leading the charge, Photon attempts to blitz Sin, but is met with a wave of eldritch energy that sends her and the others reeling. Preaching about the power of hate, Steve, Janet, and Monica are overcome by her magical influence. Being a master of the mind and body, Shang-Chi fights off the influence. Knowing what section of the brain control hate, he uses his speed to strike his allies there, to free them of Sin's control. Now understanding the power Sin wields, the Avengers regroup, and the Master of the 10 Rings leads the charge. Together, they overwhelm her, but it's not enough to put Sin down. Using the Eldritch magic of Arita's deathmatch, she summons the locals influenced by her to overrun the Avengers. Before they can react, they are buried in a mob of hate. Captain America and Shang-Chi fight them off, doing their best not to hurt them while Monica goes after Sin. Her speed isn't enough as she's caught by the throat. Unable to break away, Sin mocks Photon about her science-based powers being nothing compared to that of hate. Dropping her guard during a monologue, Sin doesn't see Wasp break free of the mob. Shrunken to the size of her code name, Janet surprise attacks the would-be god by flying into her nose. Using her gauntlet stings, the Avenger unloads on Sin's brain, dropping her to her knees in agonizing pain. With her power proving too great, Sin blows Janet out of her nose. Captain America and Commander Han use a distraction to attack her from behind. The assault seems futile until Steve reminds Sin that he doesn't have the shield. Suddenly, Photon crashes into Sin at light speed with the shield, sending her to the ground. Shockingly, the powerful isn't enough to take down the villain, but makes Sin surge with eldritch energy. As she begins to fade away to the waiting arms of the ancient goddess Arita, she warns them this was no victory because hate always lives. So, this is the first Shang-Chi story we have got since his involvement in Spider-Man's gang war. I think we're looking maybe 8 months in between those stories. I just mentioned at the beginning about the MCU. It's kind of sad that it's taken so long for him to get back on screen. By the time Doomsday comes around, it'll be like 5 years. Shouldn't take that long for such a popular character to show back up. Really no different in the comics, but hey, that's how sales work. I've got an idea. If Malusky and Marvel would like to hire me, I will work extremely cheap just for the chance to write a Shang-Chi story. I've got a pretty good idea. If they're interested, I am working on some comics for some people right now. Hopefully that works out, and maybe in due time, I can write Shang-Chi and some Iron Fist for Marvel. But let's not talk about that. We're going to talk about Shang-Chi. This book doesn't further his story any further than what Gene Luen Yang wrote. This just puts him in a team book. What it does do, interesting enough, is expand the powers of the 10 Rings, which since he's had them, which has been very little time in the comics, we've not really seen a lot done with them, except for the movie stuff where, you shoot them out like weapons at people and they swing around and come back and all this other stuff. So the first thing we see is him summon a circle with the rings and teleport everybody from the United States to Germany. Not seen that before. Very interesting ability with the 10 Rings because it's never been mentioned. So when I first read this book, I was like, whoa, where did all this come from? Jarvis sweeps up this golden dust left from the teleportation and says, magic, always a cost. Jason Aaron wrote a whole Doctor Strange run about the cost of magic, and it was awesome. I hope this pays off somewhere in the future. So, I'm assuming that he hits Sin with a giant energy bolt. As they regroup and he gets to say Avengers Assemble, he kind of does a pose. The first thing I thought it was like old school Yamcha with the spirit bomb, where it was like in the movies where he kind of like moves it around with his hand before it hits somebody. But he's got a hand raised up, and then it's almost a splash page, and then there's two thin panels on top of each other. And the bolt, it just comes down and it says, "Kraboom!" and it hits her, and she kind of laughs at him. So he can summon powerful eldritch magic himself, because unlike the MCU where you're not really sure where the 10 Rings come from with Wenwu, we know these come from Ta Lo, so they're mystical in nature. Now, also seems to enhance his speed. As a blitz Sin, he punches her rapidly. Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 fists, and it's chok, 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 and he's super fast and knocks piss out of her. And then does this cool thing where he like blows the magic off of one of the rings because he's using them as brass knuckles. Not really sure, so obviously it enhances his speed greatly. And then when they're afraid, I guess she's going to explode after Photon hits her at light speed with Captain America's shield. He summons a barrier to protect everybody from the energies. So, a lot of stuff Steve Orlando does here with the 10 Rings that we've not seen at all since they've been around in the last 4 or 5 years at this point. Yeah, 4 years is about right. Because the Shang Chi series that Jean started was in 2020. I don't think this 10 Rings showed up till the end of 2021. So yeah, about 4 years now. Also, I'm going to assume that they boost his mental defenses when Steve and Monica and Janet fall to the hate influence of Sin. He is fighting it off with his magic. He says, "It's all boiling over, isn't it? It's not any of us, but only one of us has total control over his body. 3 regions form the brain's hate circuit. I just numbed yours, but it won't last long." And that's how he takes everybody out of it. So, she is pretty much a elder god at this point, Sin is. And I was like, man, he's never fought off mental defenses like that before. And going back to Jean's run, we know that he gets bit by a Jinyun Su, which is basically like a Japanese vampire. I don't remember them jumping in this and what Marvel lore we're going to go with here. And as he's coming under his influence, his sister at the time, Shihua, she can control him. I don't know, can't really explain how that works, but because she created the one that hit him, I'm assuming she has influence over him, and he's fighting that off. And he's still in control of his mind, but not his body, as she has him attack Commander Saber and Commander Dagger. She used a technological device on his forehead to make him try to really fall in the influence of the corrupting influence that's on him, and he even fights through that. So that's with none of the 10 Rings. Now, even before this, back in Shadowland, I'm mentioning Shadowland again during the Spider-Man one-shot. Well, that's what everybody wants to see, is this guy, Mr. Negative, in that Spider-Man 4, if Shang-Chi's in it, because I love this book. Anyways, within it, Mr. Negative is going to try to corrupt Shang-Chi with his touch. Well, he does. He starts to turn black and white, much like Mr. Negative. But the thing is, Shang-Chi is in his mind, and he steals Mr. Negative's powers from him. And he still falls under the corruptive influence under it. So the 10 Rings really have to boost his mental defenses up astronomically for him to fight off an Eldritch God when he was having difficulties fighting off lower level stuff before this. Now that'll cover everything with Shang-Chi. What I do want to cover in this book, and I've been talking about it online, is the newest member of the Serpent Society, Tiger Snake. When I first laid eyes on him in this book, I was like, oh my god, they're setting this dude to fight Shang-Chi. He looks like a martial artist, much like Vega. He's got the serpent up his arm. Vega's my favorite Street Fighter, so I thought that was really cool. He's got all his arms wrapped up. He's got the wraps around his head. No shirt, loose pants, straight up looks like a martial artist. And when I seen him, I was like, yes, he is going to fight Shang-Chi. Now, he's new. This is his first appearance. There's nothing to know about him at this point. He's a completely wide open character. Is he a match for Shang-Chi? I guess we'll see in time. As for the rest of this team, the other members we wound up getting for the emergency response squad, we wound up getting Hawkeye, who's on the cover. We get Lightning, who is Miguel Santos. We get She-Hulk. We get Lightspeed, Julie Powers. We get Hercules. We get Wonder Man and Night Thrasher, Dwayne Taylor. Now, I'm assuming the only reason that Hercules is joining this team, for one, you've got to boost him up, much like what I was mentioning with all these after credits for Secret Wars that they're all been building up over the years that we know we're getting. Hercules has just been in limbo after Thor: Love and Thunder. Is he going to be in Secret Wars, or he's just going to get left in the dust? So we got to keep him fresh in the comic books. And Arita, the death goddess, the goddess of hate, she's a Greek god too. So that's, to me, I'm assuming that's why Steve Orlando is bringing Hercules in on this book, because that's related. She disappears. Obviously, he's going to be important if this comes back around at some point, because that helps tie that together. And I have no doubts that there'll be something in the future, and Sin will come back eventually, which will really pull Herc into the spotlight. But that'll wrap up this episode of the Deadly Podcast Kung Fu, brought to you by the Villains of Man. Check out the podcast over on social media accounts, Twitter, X, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads. If you like music, check out Rushing Tiger by Cougar over on SoundCloud and YouTube. But in the end, guys, remember, support your favorite podcast, support your local comic book shops, and keep reading comics, guys.